Hey guys, welcome to Poor Man Mods. Today we're going to be installing a set of Cube Speed street coilovers on my friend's 91 RB25 Swap 240SX. And if you're familiar with the channel, or if you saw my other video where I installed Cube Speed coilovers on my IS300, you know that I haven't had the best experience with coilovers. A lot of the cars that I've been in with coilovers, in my opinion, did not ride good at all. This car is another example. So like I said, this is my friend's car, and it currently has coilovers. Forgive me, I don't know the name, forgive me, I don't remember the name of the coilovers that are currently on the car. They are a higher end brand, but they are set up for drifting. And this is more of a street and daily driver car for him, and he's not happy with the way that it rides. And after he rode in my IS300, he actually fell in love with the way that it rode with the Cube Speed coilovers, and he wanted a set of Cube Speed coilovers for his 240SX. I'm going to briefly go over the install. It is so easy on this car, but I'm going to try to put a little bit more focus on setting up the ride height and how to get that dialed in, as well as adjusting the dampening. And then of course, I'll do a driving review for these coilovers and see if they do make driving this car a lot more enjoyable. They're going to be a little bit softer because these are not meant for the track. These are street coilovers. They're designed for, not ideal roads, which in Pennsylvania, that's all we have is not ideal roads. So if these are anything like the ones I put in my IS300, these are gonna make this car ride so much better. So if you are interested in a set of coilovers, whether it's for an IS300 or 240SX or another car, I will have a link to these coilovers in the description down below if you wanna pick up a set for yourself. And with that being said, let's get to the install. Got the old coilovers off the car, and just to make ride height adjustment a little bit easier for us, we're just going to try to set these Cube coilovers to roughly the same length as the old coilovers, and hopefully that gets us in the ballpark of where we want. As you can see, we do have quite a bit of adjustability here. To get this coilover to be about the same length, we're still going to have 1.5 inches to 2 inches of ride height adjustment to make the car taller if we wanted to, but we also have a lot to go if we want to lower it. So there is a lot of adjustability with these, but this is not a track car, this is not a stands car, it's just a street car, so we're gonna pretty much put it right in the middle. So we're gonna make this coilover just about as long as this one, and hopefully that gets us in the ballpark. Took the bottom part off here just to show you how much adjustability there is on here, but it's also important to note these are side specific because of the brake line bracket. So you want to make sure that you're putting the correct one. So you want to make sure that you're using the correct one. This is the front passenger side. For the top hats here, we went with the rubber isolated ones. We did not go with pillow bowl mounts or camber adjuster plates. These are going to be a little bit softer, better for a daily driver, not as harsh and aggressive. These have adjustable camber plates on it, which definitely makes it a harsher ride, but you do get camber adjustment. These don't have any camber adjustment, but it should make it a bit more comfortable to drive. And as for dampening, this is 32-way adjustable, so we have quite a range of adjustment there. So we're gonna make this front coilover just about as long as this one to get us in the ballpark for ride height, and then we will throw it on. Since this does not have the adjustable top plate here, this hole down here is slotted, so you do have a little bit of camber adjustment, just not crazy drift boy camber adjustment up top here. Just a little bit down here. So the actual install is the quickest and easiest part. Now we're at the point where we're gonna mess with ride height. Then once we finish with getting the ride height dialed in, then we'll mess with dampening. But we actually got it pretty darn close. It looks pretty good. I am totally happy with the way it looks on the passenger side. And forgive me, we're gonna be using American measurements here, not metric. I prefer metric, but unfortunately we're using American measurements here. So it's probably gonna be hard to read this, but basically I have the right rear corner at 24 13/16 of an inch. The front right corner is at 24 7/16 of an inch. So the rear is just about like a 1/4 inch higher than the front, which I think looks best. It has a little bit of a rake to it, just barely. I don't like when the rear squats. I think this is looking pretty darn good. But the driver's side is a little bit high, only by about a 1/4 inch. So the rear left, so the driver's side, is 25 1/16 of an inch, and the front left is 24 3/4. We're gonna jack up the driver's side of the car and lower the front and rear of the driver's side just a 1/4 of an inch. And I did not show me torquing any of the locking rings during the installation video. I didn't drive the car after I did the installation video. If you're going to drive the car at all before adjusting the ride height, you need to make sure that you torque the locking rings. The torque spec is 51 to 59 foot-pounds. But I didn't drive the car. Pretty much I took the car off the lift and let it sit for a day. I do recommend letting the car sit and settle before messing with the ride height, because it is going to settle a little bit, and if you start messing with it immediately, in a day or two, the ride height could totally change and it's probably gonna be a little bit lower. So the changes that I'm gonna make here, this is 2 days after I installed the coilover, so it has been sitting for a little bit, so it should be settled by now, and I do recommend waiting at least a day or two before you start making these adjustments if you're really particular about it, because it could just be a total waste of time. So let's get the driver's side jacked up and I'll show you how to easily raise and lower these coilovers. Okay, we're at the front left corner here, and like I said, we're gonna be lowering this a 1/4 inch. What you wanna do, so you don't wanna spin it just yet, but that just goes to show how easy this is to adjust, all right? So what you wanna do here is hold this locking collar with the smaller wrench so you don't spin the coilover, and then spin this collar up. There's like this lock washer underneath of it, and you want to raise this up a 1/4 of an inch. So we're going to measure that now. Okay, so just by looking at my tape measure here, this gap, so from here to the bottom of this ring, my gap is just smaller than a 1/4 of an inch. What I'm gonna do to lock this in place at a 1/4 of an inch is put some tape on the threads here so that it locks this collar in, and I can raise it up a little bit to where it engages with this tape and kinda holds it in place. Now let's measure that. looking pretty good. That gap is just above 1/4 of an inch. So a little bit more than what I want, but what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to spin the coilover down. And since I know my gap was a little bit bigger than 1/4 inch, I'm not gonna bottom out this locking ring by twisting the coilover. I'm gonna now hold it, and then I'll tighten this collar by hand. And this should be just about 1/4 of an inch. And now what you want to do, we're going to torque this to 51 to 59 foot-pounds. There's a little bit of a range there. And we'll also torque this one as well. I'm sure Cube torqued this one before they sent it out, but just want to be sure that everything is torqued. So torque both of these, and I'll show you how to do that. This is a bit awkward to do. I have my torque wrench underneath this smaller wrench for this locking ring here, because this torque wrench is not reversible. And we're gonna be going this way on that bottom ring, and we're gonna hold this upper ring. All right, so that one's torqued. Now we can do this one. For this one, it's likely to spin the coil over and change your ride height. Alrighty, got this one torqued. We can move on to the rear. And we'll be doing the same method over here. Check the gap. That was just under 1/4 inch. So we'll put our tape on here, and we can thread that up a little bit to where the tape grips onto it. And that should be spot on 1/4 of an inch pretty much. Now we can turn the coil over down into the lower body. Now, if you were going to be raising the car, here's what I would do. I would have your ring, your lock ring, all the way down on this body, and then place your painter's tape on top of the ring. Crack it loose slightly so it releases its preload against this body, and then you can twist the coilover away from the body, and the tape should hold the ring in place, and then you'll be able to measure the gap as it increases, and the ring won't be sliding around. The tape will hold it in place. Then you can lock it down and torque it. Pretty much just the reverse process of what we did up front if you're gonna raise it. But in our case, of course, we're lowering it just about 1/4 of an inch. And obviously, if we're rotating the body this direction to lower it, you'd be going that way to raise it. And if this was too tight for you to turn by hand, what you would do is take the larger wrench and put it on this ring here and try to turn the body with the wrench. You wouldn't want to put it on here in fear that you could loosen this and take away your spring preload. You would want to put the wrench on this ring since it's locked in with this one, and that would turn the whole body as well. We'll torque this guy just to be safe and torque this one. And since we didn't do this to the other side, we'll go ahead and torque the other rings too. We'll do that off camera, but I'll make sure I'll torque the other coilovers as well, just to be safe. There's not, a whole lot of room for clearance in here. There we go. Beautiful. I'll get this wheel back on and torque the other side. So now we're gonna work on the dampening and get this thing riding really nice. And we're just gonna start off by putting these dampers at max soft. Now these are 32-way adjustable, so there are 32 clicks on this. It does show on the adjuster here, which these are removable, the direction on which to turn it to make it harder or stiffer. We're gonna leave these in, and as you can see, there are those clicks. So there's 32 of these between max hard and max soft. But we're just gonna put these all the way at max soft and take this thing out, see how it drives. Oh wow. Okay. Not sure if you can see how much I'm bouncing around. That is because it is way too soft. All right, I've driven that little stretch of gravel with my other cars and know how it should feel. So I'm gonna stiffen up these coilovers a bit. That was super duper soft. And I'm gonna add 10 clicks to all four corners. That was very, very soft and bouncy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're gonna do that to the front and the rear. So that's almost in the middle. These are 32-way adjustable, so 16 is right in the middle. We're at 10 all the way around. Should make it quite a bit stiffer, not nearly as bouncy. And we're gonna take this on a nice back road and see how she feels. And what we experienced on that gravel back there was bounciness. I mean, the shocks were pretty much not doing anything, and it was just bouncing up and down on the springs because it was way too soft. And I can already tell just pulling out of that parking lot, much, much better. Front feels really good. The rear's still a little bouncy. Yeah, the rear's still too soft. Not sure if you can see, but I am bouncing a lot. The rear is still jumping around quite a bit because it's soft. I'm gonna pull over up here, and I'm gonna do 8 more clicks in the rear. Oh, I'm sure this is gonna be just fun to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Change my mind. I'm also gonna add 1, 2 in the front. Okay, we are now 12 clicks in the front, 18 in the rear. I changed my mind and added 2 more in the front. Let's see how she does. Oh, much better. Yep. Little bouncy right there, but that was a super rough patch. I just hit like 3 manhole covers. Was not too harsh or aggressive at all. That took the manhole covers beautifully. Here's another. After putting 12 clicks in the front, 18 in the rear, this thing definitely passes the Main Street test in my opinion. You can hit potholes, manhole covers, minor potholes, without clenching your teeth or, puckering your sphincter. And here's some railroad tracks right here. No problem. Drama-free. And that is what I'm looking for in a car. Like, I want a car that can handle well, but I don't want it to be so extreme and aggressive that whenever you see a manhole cover or railroad tracks on the road that you clench your teeth and grip the steering wheel hard, or you have to swerve out of the way. Like, you should be able to hit those things with it being relatively drama-free, which this car can do. And now we're gonna approach some turns and see how it can handle. Oh, yes. Yeah, it feels really good. This is really nice. Hell yeah. Couple quick adjustments, and This thing passes the Main Street test. You know, it's Main Street and backcountry road approved. And you can huck this thing into a corner and it feels fantastic. Totally daily drivable, but also handles amazing. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. I have to say, totally pleased with the way these coilovers turned out on this car. You know, a little bit of adjustment. They're pretty much right in the middle. You know, 12 clicks of hardness in the front. Look at that. I mean, that was some serious potholes back there, and this thing took it no problem. So 12 clicks up front, 18 in the rear. This thing handles beautifully. You can throw it into a corner and it drives so good. Planted and predictable, but it's also freaking Main Street approved in my opinion. Totally daily drivable. Couldn't be happier. Now, if you're gonna track the car, these might not be aggressive enough for you, but the vast majority of us, you know, as much as we want to be professional race car drivers and drifters, the harsh reality is the vast majority of us drive our cars on the street 98 to 100% of the time. And that's the way it should be set up. And these coilovers are designed for the street and unideal road conditions, which this town that I'm in Pennsylvania, certainly the roads are less than ideal, and this car handled it like a champ. So I'm totally happy with the way this car drives. Obviously, pretty much it goes without saying, but after you do this, you are going to need an alignment, especially because the coilovers we took off had adjustable camber plates up top. The Cube Speed coilovers we got, we specifically did not want adjustable camber plates, and we wanted the rubber isolator up top. And that's another thing that I forgot to mention. You know, when you have a solid bearing up top and camber plate like the old coilovers, those can be really aggressive and harsh and clunk. These Cube Speed coilovers have, you know, the rubber bushing up top or isolator, whatever you want to call them. That rubber bushing is going to make it so much more enjoyable to drive on the street. Might not be ideal for a track car, but you know, for the 98% of us, that is what you want. And if you are interested in getting a set of Cube Speed coilovers for your car, whether it's an S13 or an IS300 or a Supra, they offer it for a ton of different cars. I will have a link to them in the description down below. And if you use this coupon code right here, you will save 10% off your order, which is a pretty good chunk of change. So I think that about does it for this video. I am very pleased with the results here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope maybe you learned something, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.